our presentation. We are going to be recording this, and so if you are wanting to look back at any of the slides, we will be posting it on our website. So welcome. Thank you for joining us tonight for the RA info session. So we really wanted to start off by giving an overview of our Office of Residential Life mission and kind of why we do what we do. And so we're really looking to create a safe, inclusive, and well-maintained living community. We want to work together as a team to make sure that all residents are feeling comfortable within our residence halls, within our apartments, and that we're giving them a good experience while living on campus. We engage our community members in opportunities to develop spiritually, socially, and academically in the Jesuit Catholic tradition of the university. And so really focusing on different areas of life, both in academics and in personal lives, and really helping students develop.
So we have a quick question for you all. When have you interacted with an RA?
I can go. The last time I interacted with my RA was probably about last week. We were just shooting some hoops right outside the Plex, getting into just like some bonding outside of our hall.
Awesome. So an experience where you're bonding, you're being physically active, you're getting to know your RA a little bit better. What else?
Yeah, I can go next. So that's actually my RA's room. And last time I interact with the RA is like he hosted this Zoom meeting with the course selection for next semester. It's very useful. We got some great information from his info session and yeah. And then also he's very informative and knowledgeable on what kind of classes and then we should take, and then he gave a lot of good suggestions.
That's awesome. And I know your RA, that's Tom Mogan. So you did a great job with that program. So RAs obviously do a ton of great things in terms of interactions. Does anyone else have one more thing that they want to share?
I can go.
Yep.
So my RA, I'm in the MLE floor, so my RA is Darnell. So I literally just knocked on the door because he's the one that told me about the meeting. So
awesome.
He like sort of helped me with the process and like telling me what needs to happen to be an RA and stuff like that. So I've been working closely with him to like find out what I need to do and stuff like that and the requirements.
That's awesome. I love to hear that Darnell is doing amazing things on the MLE floor and also recruiting people. So what is the RA role? When we're looking at the RA role specifically, the most important thing without a doubt is that you're a student. You're a student first. That's our number one expectation, that you're here at BC to get an education, do extremely well, and then go off and set the world aflame. In addition to that too, like we talked about a little bit with Tom Mogan and Walsh and Darnell Phils in the MLE floor, it's really being a peer mentor and a resource. So really having this experience, having a couple years at BC or a year at BC, you have this wealth of knowledge. And it's extremely important for you to help support other students as they navigate, living in a new space. If you're working in the first year area and transitioning to college, transitioning into your second year as a sophomore student, if you're working in, our sophomore plus area, or supporting some upper class students as they navigate steps, and what life looks like after college. So speaking about that, how do RAs do this? It's through a lot of programming. So there's many different opportunities to engage in programming, and we have 4 different focuses in programming. So it's community, which is some of your funner programs where you're getting together, gathering. I know it's a little bit different with COVID right now, but usually it's in a space where you can all gather, break some bread, have some food, get to meet other people. In addition to that, too, we have programs that focus in on our Jesuit tradition, because we are a Jesuit Catholic university. In addition to focusing in on health and wellness and many other different things that we could kind of throw into the loop. So you're a collaborator. You're working with many different offices, right? So another piece of programming that we're really focusing in on is equity, diversity, and inclusion. So we're working with our offices, with the BAIC, with OID, in order to bring some more educational programs to residents in our building. We also work with our Office of Health Promotion and many different on-campus resources and partners. You're a teammate, so when you become an RA, you're never alone. Even when you're on duty, you always have someone with you. So it's really important to know that you are becoming a member of a team, and it's all about teamwork, community building, working together to make your residence hall experience really, really great, not only for you but for your residents and everyone else in the building. So we talked a little bit about community building, and then this last piece too is also important as you become a policy enforcer. And really, what that role is just really making sure that the community is safe, our residents are safe, and that they're making smart decisions, and that you're just really documenting anything that you see that may be out of the ordinary.
So as we kind of have been talking about throughout the beginning of this presentation, we do have different areas that you may be working in, different areas that our students are living in, as you know, as a student. So we have our first year area on Upper and Newton campus, and then we have our sophomore plus area and our upper class area that's on lower campus. And so there are these three different areas that you could be split into. And then you could also work with an LLC to get even more specialized within that area. And this is something that you can indicate on your application if you're interested in one of these LLCs. We have our Healthy Living LLC, Multicultural Learning Experience, Casca Women's Experience, which I get to oversee, Seagull Scholars, which works with our nursing students, which I also get to oversee, Perspectives, Sustainability, and BC First. So a lot of really cool LLCs that you could work with, and you can indicate that interest on your application. As an RA, you are going to be able to gain a whole lot of experience. It's a very holistic position where you, as Rowan was mentioning before, you're working in a lot of different areas and kind of playing a lot of different roles, and that leads you to gaining a lot of different experiences. Programming will be a big part of your job, and so you really learn about event planning. It's a large amount of logistics, and so you get to learn about the logistics of event planning and then seeing it through. You really learn how to work on a team. You do serve as on an RA team, you have a supervisor, and you really learn about that teamwork and how to build a sense of community. You will definitely gain an ability to de-escalate situations. You do serve in an on-call rotation, where you're helping students that may be in some escalated situations. And so we will give you the tools to learn how to de-escalate these situations. You'll build a whole lot of relationships within this role, both with your residents and with your fellow RAs. I'm already seeing my RAs really build really close connections and really have each other's backs. And you're really going to build a team if that's what you're looking for on your RA team. But you're also going to build a really strong relationship with your residents. You'll definitely gain some good leadership skills. You get to make a lot of decisions within this role and really take on this leadership role and make it your own. And a lot of decision making skills. There's a lot of thinking on your feet and a lot of decision making to be done within the role, and so you'll definitely gain that. And also want to emphasize with that decision making skills, you're not on your own either. Rowan and I supervise, and your RD is always there to help you with the decision-making skills, but you really get to experience what that process is like. Conflict management, you'll be helping residents with really any conflict they're going through. It could be something like a roommate conflict or just really anything in their life, and you're helping them manage through that. Learning how to work with a group of diverse peers and administrators. You're going to be working with some people that are coming from different backgrounds than you and from different life experiences. And it's a really unique opportunity to learn about those life experiences and kind of see how you can work together coming from those diverse backgrounds. And along with that, you'll learn how to communicate with various types of people. Communication skills look different for everyone, and that's an excellent skill to gain to learn how to communicate with people that may communicate differently than you. You'll build a lot of administrative and time management skills. You do wear a lot of hats, and so you have to learn how to manage your time and utilize your supervisor to manage that time. And you'll definitely gain those skills of how to balance all of your roles. And then just some personal and professional development within the role. You'll definitely be gaining that.
So let's hear from some of the RAs that we have currently on staff this year. So we have Jackie Farnham, who is currently an RA in the V90 community. And he really speaks about his first year RA and how they encouraged him to apply to the RA position. And over the past 3 years, as he's been an RA, he's been able to build amazing connections with residents across different communities. So really awesome person. If you haven't gotten a chance to meet him, definitely try to connect with Jackie. In addition to that, too, we also have another RA from the Vandy 90 community. She's on. So she applied to be an RA because she wanted to develop stronger leadership skills and learn how to interact with many different types of people. So her experience so far has been very fun and informative, and it's definitely helped her gain a new personal growth that will really, impact and help her in terms of her future endeavors. So I know, for example, with Chizong, she's in the nursing program, wants to become a nurse one day. And a lot of the skills that she's dealing with and working with in terms of crisis management while being on call as an RA is definitely some of the things that will prepare her for once, she's in a hospital and dealing with some of those high pressure situations.
And next we have Maggie. They applied because they wanted an opportunity to build these lasting relationships with residents, and also to develop important administrative and interpersonal skills. Their favorite experience, their experience so far has been very positive and fulfilling to their goals as an RA. They've truly enjoyed getting to connect with residents and work on an amazing and supportive staff. And then Adam, they applied to be an RA because they thought that they could do a good job of being a resource. That's a big part of the role, is that you are a resource for these students and they're really going to be looking up to you. And they're able to pull from the variety of experiences that they've had at Boston College. We'd be remiss without mentioning COVID and what that's done to the RA experience a little bit. It's been unique. I'm sure you've seen your RAs making a lot of adjustments and trying to, be safe with COVID while also building relationships with you. And it's also made Adam's experience very interesting. But despite that, they've been very pleased about the connections they've been able to make, not only with residents, but their entire staff as well.
So if you're offered a position, there are many great benefits that come to the role. So the first is basically having your room covered, your meal plan covered, and your infirmary fees. It's really the main part of the compensation package that, really is provided in the role. We highly encourage you to connect with your financial aid officer if you're offered the position, just to really have a discussion to realize and figure out how, having this new position may impact, your financial aid moving forward with the university. Something that's really important to note too. So if you do become an RA and you accept the position offered, you're only allowed to work 10 hours a week for any other campus job. So for example, we mentioned Tom Mogan, earlier, he works at the Plex. So he could only work 10 hours a week at the Plex and still be an RA. And the reason why we have this is because the RA is a really, time consuming role. And we just don't want students to get overburdened with not only the RA role, their on-campus employment, but then, we know BC students are highly involved. So I know you all are a part of different other clubs and organizations, and having so much on your plate can really lead to a lot going on. So you want to prevent that from happening. So you can only work up to 10 hours a week. So when we look at the application requirements, first and foremost, as we mentioned earlier, you're a student first, and making sure that you're doing well academically is important. So we want to make sure that you are above a 2.5 GPA at the time of your application or at the end of the fall semester. So for our first year students who may not know what their GPA is, it's okay to give a rough estimate of what you believe it is, and then we'll follow up just to make sure that that is correct. For our people, in terms of checking your behavior and making sure that you're doing well in terms of that standing with the university and the Office of Student Conduct, we just really want to make sure that you're in good disciplinary standing. And we could talk a little bit further about that in depth, but you just want to make sure that if you have had conduct incidents, that you aren't at a status sanction that's high enough to take you away from being eligible for the position. So if you have any questions or concerns about that, please don't hesitate to reach out to me or Kylie afterwards, and we can speak more about that in depth. So most importantly too, we really appreciate people who show a strong sense of leadership, a strong sense of being a great team member, someone who's devoted to diversity, equity, and inclusion, and the focus on BC's Jesuit mission in terms of serving, you know, people. So it's extremely important that, you know, this focus is, you know, what we're looking for in terms of really great, strong candidates. So the application will take on average about
Real
20.
one, so sorry. I had to
Yeah,
switch rooms really quick.
all good. Go for it.
Hi, sorry, I'm back. So the application is going to take on average about 20 to 30 minutes to complete. So definitely give yourself time to answer these questions thoroughly. We'll be gaining a lot of information about you and giving yourself enough time to do that. You can edit your application after you submit it until Wednesday, January 5th. And so if you need to go back and edit anything, you will have edit access. Along with this, you're also going to be asked to submit a PDF version of your resume. So you can spend some time polishing that up and showing off what you've done and what you've accomplished, and then also a response to a creative prompt that'll be on the application. So once you apply, you get in the interview process. And so round one is an individual interview that you'll receive about a 30-minute interview. It'll be via Zoom with 2 members of our staff, and it'll focus on getting to know you and your skill set better. And so we'll spend time getting to know you, and then you can also ask us questions within that interview. For round two, we'll ask a number of candidates back, and then you'll be invited to participate in a second interview with 2 different residential life staff members. That'll kind of go into more specifics on scenarios you might encounter. So this will be more of a case study type interview round, if you will, and it'll kind of get more in depth than what you could see in the position.
So some tips for the process is extremely important to be yourself. There's no one way to be an RA. We have a diverse group of RAs, many people from different backgrounds, different experiences. And it's just extremely important to be yourself because that's what residents are looking for. That's what we're looking for you to be your authentic self and to bring that leadership and that growth to our department. So in terms of the interview process, especially the first one and the second one, it's extremely important that you're using specific examples. Examples really, you know, are a part of storytelling, and storytelling is really a part of doing really good on the interview. So you want it to be able to portray, you know, to our staff that you're able to, you know, exhibit skills in terms of teamwork, in terms of leadership. And how do you do that? By giving us specific stories and examples. So that's extremely important. So just make sure that you practice for the interview and that you use examples. So you can check out our department's website to get a ton of more info about the RA role. You could talk to us about it. We're always available. You could talk to your RD about it as well. Your RAs, if you have a grad in your building, your GSA, your PGA, anyone about the process really, and we're here to really support you on that end. In terms of your resume and working on the bulletin board piece, it's extremely important to also reach out to the Career Center as that could help in addition to interview tips and just resumes in general. So the timeline, the application went live a couple of weeks back on the 16th. The final deadline for the application is the 5th of January at 11:59 p.m. So please make sure to get that done. During winter break might be the perfect opportunity to take some time to really focus in, get the resume done, get the bulletin board done, and submit all of your applications. Our first round interviews and offers for first round interviews are going to go out mid to late January. So be on the lookout for that. And then our second round interviews are going to be in late January. I'm pretty sure that we'll have times both in the morning and the evening, slots available so we can accommodate anybody who may be working or may have class during some of those times. Mid to late February is when decision letters will be sent out. And then you'll have some time until late February where we're going to ask you to make a decision on whether or not you would like to accept the role or decline the role. And then in April of 2021, we'll have a big RA welcome meeting, most likely virtual, especially if things continue on with the pandemic. But it'll be a great opportunity to meet and see your future staff mates, meet your future RD potentially. And it would just be a great opportunity and welcome to our department.
Thank you again for joining us. We really appreciate it and hope that you were able to learn more about the role and what our process is going to look like. We want to open it up now for any questions that you may have.
I had a question. So will knowledge about like if you decide to like be in an LLC, like which one you get and just in general what your placement will be, is that going to come out with the decision letters in mid to late February?
Yes, that does come out. So you'll have information in terms of if you are selected for LLC, let's say you're selected for the Perspectives LLC, in your decision letter, you'll get that information and then you'll be able to make a decision.
Okay, thank you.
I guess sort of a follow-up onto that would be when, if you were selected, but not for necessarily an LLC, would you find out your placement of where you're going to be an RA?
Yeah, so in your decision letter, you should find out your specific placement. You won't find out specifically what room you'd be in. And depending, like, let's say, for example, because we do have communities like Vandy 90, where there's actually 2 physical buildings, you may not know exactly which building you'd be placed in, but you'll know that you're, in Vandy 90, in the Vandy 90 community. But you won't get specifics around your room placement until later on in the summer. Yeah. And then Tianchu, I believe.
Yeah, hi
Sure.
everyone. I have a question. So I actually filled out the application already, submitted it. On the application,
Awesome.
it says, there's like a checkbox for next semester RA. And also, I think someone in the chat also asked a question. So I'm wondering, like, what will the process be? Like, interview, is it going to be expedited if we want to be like a RA for next semester?
Yeah, so we do have some openings currently for next semester, given some different reasons, whether we had people leave for to stay at home, do remote work for the rest of the semester, or we just didn't fill that opening earlier. So if you are a candidate and you selected that option and you do move through the process, that you might get an opportunity to get reached out to by Brian Regan, our associate director, and they might talk to you about potentially being onboarded and starting a role in the spring. So that's not guaranteed, and it all really depends on our openings, and I can't say exactly what our openings look like for sure right now. I know there's some spread out in different communities, but depending on, going through the application process, you might get contacted by Brian Regan for that opportunity. So I'm gonna look at the chat really quick.
Yeah, I can touch on Brittany's question about our first time RAs always put in the first year area. You're not placed based on if you're first year RA versus a returning RA. We use your interviews and what strengths and skill sets we believe that you have to place you. And so we'll place you in an area depending on those strengths. So it's not necessarily just because you're a first time RA, you're going to be in the first year area, if that is helpful.
Yeah, the only caveat to that I would say is, let's say you are a rising sophomore, so you're going to be a sophomore next year. The likelihood of you being placed in an upper class community like the mods or 2150 is very slim, just because of that age difference. And we usually only have graduate students in those communities.
Absolutely.
I think we have another question. So I add a line, I believe I filled out the application, but I didn't see a creative prompt. So the creative prompt was definitely on that same page that's asking you to submit your resume. So submitting your resume as a PDF and also submitting the bulletin board as a PDF. So you still have time to go back into the application and resubmit that.
And the creative prompt, I don't know if I went enough in depth into it, is just creating a bulletin board that kind of introduces yourself. So if you go back through that application and see like an introductory bulletin board, that's the creative prompt.
And the next question is, when will we learn if we get a first round interview? So should it be late January, I believe it was. Yeah, you'll know that you'll get a first round interview, and then you'll be scheduling for that interview within those next couple of weeks.
These were great questions. Do we have any other questions?
And feel free to be open, ask whatever you want. We're here, to support you all. And even if you don't want to ask something right now, you could always reach out to us and we can connect with you via email as well. So the next question we have from Christy. So is there a certain percentage that gets chosen from the first round of the interviews to go to the second round of interviews, or does it vary each year? So this is actually the first year that we're doing this process. So I don't believe we have a percentage. I think it's really based potentially on your application and how well you do. But it also may be impacted in terms of how many returners that we may have coming back to our staff. But I do know that I think there should be a ton more openings this year, I would say, just based off of the amount of seniors that we have on staff. So for example, currently in Walsh, we have like 12 seniors. So there should be a decent amount more openings compared to last year. All right, so just to double check whether or not we want to be in the LLC doesn't impact the chances of getting the RL. Yeah, no, not at all. So if you don't get the LLC role, but you did extremely well and you interviewed well, there's still a strong possibility that you'll get picked up for another area. Any other questions or concerns? Going once, going twice.
And we can also stay on this call if you have a question that you want to ask and not in front of the larger group. We'll stay on and answer that if you want it individually.
Definitely.
All right. We appreciate you all joining us tonight. It was really nice. Oh, it looks like we have another question. Just kidding.
So is the second round of interviews more competitive, or is it fair chances?
I would say it's not a competitive process. Just be yourself, in these interviews. And I mean, I'm not going to say that every single person will get an offer. That's just not how it works, unfortunately. But I wouldn't say it's a competition. Everyone has a fair chance. We're not coming in with any biases of who we want or anything. It's definitely, just come in and do your thing. Yeah.
Exactly. And what I highly encourage too is prepare. Like one thing I tell my RAs all the time, it's the 5 P's, right? So prior preparation prevents poor performance. Practice interviewing with your friends, with your RA, if you know your RA, especially because they've gone through the process or somewhat of a similar process before. And as long as you're prepared, you're confident, and you're just being yourself, you should do well.
Absolutely. Any other questions? Awesome. Well, as I mentioned, Rill and I will stick around if you have any. But if not, enjoy the rest of your Tuesday evening.